New documents that have been leaked from the George Soros Foundation show that the billionaire George Soros has been giving money to Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm not pushing some kind of crazy right-wing conspiracy thing about how communists secretly taking over or any kind of nonsense like that. What I am talking about is the integration of Black Lives Matter into the mainstream discussion and part of mainstream debate and protest, and that it's quite far from being the radical group and the radical action necessary to save the lives of African Americans. What's important here is to point out how it's being normalized and turned into, or seemingly it always was, just a liberal protest group. Now, here's exactly what the Soros Foundation in the leaked documents had to say about the group. Recognizing the need for strategic assistance, the U.S. Programs Board approved $650,000 in Opportunities Fund support to invest in technical assistance and support for the groups at the core of the burgeoning Black Lives Matter movement. While these emergent groups have mobilized communities with a force that captured the nation's conscience, behind the scenes they had invested much less time in reflection, strategy development, and future planning. U.S. programs provided the space through a grant from the New York Venture Fund, which supported a series of planning convenings for different aspects of the movement. The highest profile events, the Black Lives Matter convening in Cleveland and the Law for Blacks gathering in New York, yielded strong, promising critique of efforts to date and a potential blueprint for strengthening the movement going forward. And I think this is a fair critique of Black Lives Matter. They haven't really put forward anything in terms of a long-term plan for achieving, a cessation of the killings of black people by police. And you kind of need that if it's the thing that you're trying to carry out. Like, if that's the point in the movement, the whole point of it, then you have to develop a strategy to achieve that aim. But that's not how Black Lives Matter came around. It came around as an angry reaction to the police killings that were carried out, and it's inherently decentralized, which means it doesn't have a real overall leadership to guide them towards a particular goal. What you have is a bunch of small groups acting on their own, and some of them doing things that are outright damaging to their own cause. What they need is unity and leadership. And that's the kind of thing that George Soros is trying to give. The Soros Foundation is looking to try to actually lead Black Lives Matter and to give it a kind of direction. But the whole point of this is the fact that if such a thing happens, then you can certainly count on the organization not being a radical fringe group that wants to change the system. They're really being integrated into the mainstream and being part of a protesting movement that the establishment is not concerned about. Black Lives Matter, $650,000. Per board consensus at our May board meeting, U.S. programs supported a series of convenings across the country over the summer, organized in response to the immediate outrage and the escalating community mobilization to save black lives following the numerous killings of black men, women, and children by police. The largest of these events took place in July, when activists participated in the Movement for Black Lives convening in Cleveland, Ohio. In November, the Funders Collaborative on Youth Organizing will engage younger activists in Durham, North Carolina. In addition to supporting these convenings, U.S. Programs has provided the groups and attendees of the convenings described here with technical assistance. So that while Black Lives Matter began as a grassroots organization, if it's going to become a huge national force, it's going to need a significant amount of funding. And these things always need a significant amount of funding. But it's a matter of where you get the money from. In this situation, we can see very clearly the Soros Foundation attempting to take over the movement for itself and to push for some kind of a general social peace reforms. Because that's what inherently the capitalist class wants. Social peace in order to maintain profits and a situation where those profits can be maintained. The problem with capitalism is that it's fraught with internal contradictions that cause antagonisms within society that inherently cause it to be unstable. But we can see how Black Lives Matter is being taken over by the mainstream and will become a meaningless mainstream movement if something isn't done about it. Our support of the Black Lives Matter movement follows other investments that have taken very different paths, including the Dreamers and Occupy Wall Street. USP grantee United We Dream, for example, a youth-led organization formed in 2009 by undocumented students and other advocates, changed the narrative about undocumented people and continues to be a major player in the immigration reform field. The immigration movement we see today would not have happened without UWD. In other words, the movements today which have the most power to change things and have a long-lasting effects are ones that are paid for by very large organizations such as George Soros and his whole organization. What's important here is how working within the system ends up just making you a part of the system. As the old saying goes, you don't change the system changes you. And that's exactly what's happening here. Far from the image that Black Lives Matter gives, that they're like some kind of anti-establishment, anti-system, organization that's there to take down the corrupt and take down a corrupt system and replace it with something that's fair and just. They very much are integrated into the mainstream of discussion. And this can be seen so starkly with the fact that George Soros, a billionaire, you couldn't get more integrated into the system than a billionaire, controlling the whole thing to even forward his own bourgeois capitalist interest, which is a social peace necessary for the creation of profits. So Black Lives Matter, if it wishes to be something that is capable of destroying the system and building the new fair one that they would like to see. And even then I would make a lot of criticisms of the fact that mainly they're a liberal protest group and that all this anti-system, anti-establishment rhetoric is pretty much just empty. But if they really wanted to do that, then they would have to break their ties with the Soros Foundation, break their ties with any kind of bourgeois power that's trying to assist them, and they would have to actually go in a radical direction. And I think that's a very important thing that they need to keep in mind if they truly do want to stop the killings against African Americans. Thank you for watching. Won't you go ahead, rate, comment, subscribe, and share on various social media. And if you want, you can head over to my Patreon page and show your support. Or you could head over to the MRN bookstore and check out some of the latest books available.